Hi, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Garance French, and this is Garance French Revolution. So, as you saw in the title, we are going to be talking about French cinema and the history of French cinema. So, I'm going to tell you a little story to start things off. The other day, about 2 weeks ago, I would say, I went to the theater. A local theater where in the city I was staying at was showing Anatomy of a Fall, which is a French movie, which was released last year. It won la Palme d'Or. I don't know how you say that in English. The Palme d'Or, I guess you say. Then it went on to win Golden Globes and Oscars. Like, it was really famous throughout the beginning of the year in the US. This is a movie directed by Justine Triet, which was, I believe she was nominated for the Oscar for Best Director. Anyway, she's a great woman. She wrote a screenplay with another person, but I don't remember the name quite now, but I'll put it up. Now, you might know the story of this movie because it has been very famous in France and in the US for very different reasons. I might get into that. That might be interesting because some of the people that watch this might be like from the US, like non-French anyway. So you don't know like the internal struggle that this movie had. So basically, about a year ago in May 2023, the film was showing in the Cannes Film Festival in France. It won la Palme d'Or, which is like the highest prize, I believe. And so Justine Triet, I try to say her name half French, half in English. So Justine Triet, she went on stage to accept the award, obviously, and she said some things about, basically she said some things that the government did not like, did not appreciate. Everyone was talking about how good this movie was, and people thought, oh, this is going to go to the Oscars, because in the Oscars there's a category for like foreign films, and like a country submits one movie and that goes to be nominated if it is chosen, obviously. And so they thought, oh well, this is the movie that is going to be nominated in this category. But since Justine Triet said some things that the government didn't like and a lot of people, like powerful people, didn't like, this movie was not chosen to represent France. But the thing is, it was strong enough on its own that it got like 5 Oscar nominations, like for Best Actress, for Best Screenplay, which it won, for Best Director, I believe, like a lot of things. And it did not need to be like, it was so much bigger than just like a French movie. It was a movie in the actual competition, so that was quite something. But basically that's a story about like people in the US, or like, as I'm saying US because I'm thinking about the Oscars, but like everywhere else but France, they really know this movie as like, oh, just a French movie. But this movie meant a lot. This movie almost did not make it to the Oscars because some powerful people in France did not like what she said. Like, it was a whole thing. So if you have seen the movie, and even if you don't, you might have heard about it, it's an absolute wonderful movie. I have heard about it all season long, like all award season long, and I was so eager to watch it, and I saw it was showing in my local theater, and I was like, well, I can go, great, I'm gonna go, I want to see this movie. So, for those who are not familiar with the movie, it's a film that takes place in France. A family of 3 is living in like a little chalet in the like mountain of France, pretty isolated, there's snow everywhere. In the first few minutes of the movie, Samuel, the father, is found dead by his child. So the family is made of Sandra, who is German, Samuel, who is French, and their child, what's his name? I don't remember the kid's name, but he did such a great job. And their dog also. They had a dog. Oh, the dog was at the Oscar. It was so cute. Samuel, the father, is found dead. So there's police and everything. And then people start to suspect that maybe his wife killed him because they had an argument the night before. It was a whole thing. And so it turns into a trial at first just to see if the death was suspicious or not. And it is declared suspicious. And then the wife, so Sandra, is like the main suspect because she was the only one there. It's a whole mess and becomes like a whole lot of things in the press. And basically, as she is trying to prove her innocence, the couple's life is being dissected through testimonies and recordings, like audio recordings. So it's not as much about the murder as it is about relationships and a marriage and how it works, and the different, like the outside, like what people see of it and what actually happens. So it's a great movie. I made a vlog on my other channel called Garance French if you want to see it, because I was so good to see it and I did not expect it to like touch me that much. I was crying on the way back home. Like, I was crying in the dead of night like a stupid bitch. I made a vlog about it. It might be released by the time this video is released. But yeah, this movie, like, I didn't expect to like it that much. I went in curious because I knew what it was about and I knew how much praise it got, but then I understood why. Like, I was like, damn, I was so proud that the fact this is a French movie, and also like I understand the appeal for like the Oscars and stuff because it's a French movie, but it's not all in French. So as I said, Sandra, the main suspect, she's German and Samuel is French, and they met in London, I believe, like in England anyway. So they speak English between the two of them. And Sandra, she does not speak that much French. She does speak French because they speak with their child, whose name I've forgotten. They speak both French and English, but she does not speak French fluently. She has troubles. That also plays into the trial. So this movie is mostly in English. Like they are, like not mostly, but it's a lot in English and a lot in French. It switches between the two languages, and I think that's also what appealed to foreigners and non-French speakers because the Oscars tend to gravitate towards more like movies that are more English speaking, which is normal. But while I was going to the theater, there's always some ad before, like some like trailers for other movies, and I noticed something. That made me like. So basically, I was sitting in a theater. Now it's a small theater. There's only like one room, and it's like very local things. They were promoting French movies because we're in France, and it's not the kind of theater to like. There's no blockbuster. There's no blockbuster. They were not like. I think they were showing Dune at some point, but like not that much. They really more like small things and French things, right? And so I was sitting there waiting for the movie to start, and I was taking pictures, for Instagram. And I saw three other movies, but I only remember two of them. I saw two other trailers for movies, and I thought they are all about the same thing. Like Anatomy of a Fall and these two movies, they are all about the same thing, and it's trials. Someone or something is always on trial. So I'm going to sum up those like two movies that I saw the trailer of and tell you basically what they're about. So the first trailer that I saw is called Pas de Vague. It's releasing this year in theater. The movie is about a teacher that is being questioned for allegedly bullying a young girl in his class. Everything gets out of proportion as more and more people are getting involved. Now his job and reputation is in danger, really speaking English, and everyone is trying to figure which one of them is telling the truth. This is a true story about a teacher who was wrongly accused. So this is the first movie called Pas de Vague. In French means no waves. So basically, don't make any waves. So that's the sum up of it. And I'm gonna talk about the second movie, and then we're gonna link them two together. The second trailer I saw is La Promesse Verte, which translates to The Green Promise, and I'm going to read you a summary that I wrote. This movie talks about a mother who is trying to free her son, who is about to be executed. He's a photographer, and he's fighting against deforestation in, I don't remember the country, but like in a foreign country. But the government there has arrested him. She's trying to set him free by proving that the government is in the wrong with the deforestation. So here, again, in this two movie, there is no like trial involved, unlike in Anatomy of a Fall. There is no actual trial, but there's someone or something being put on trial there. You can like, do you get what I mean? Like in Pas de Vague, is the teacher who is accused of bullying his students. So he's sort of a trial, like his reputation and his job of being like endangered. He's accused of something, and people have to decide if he's guilty or not, basically. So it's a trial. It doesn't take place in the court, but it's a trial. And in La Promesse Verte, it's a trial. It's not someone is in trial. It's more like something. It's the government for deforestation. Well, he's like her son is also about to get executed. So there's no trial. That's the thing. There's no trial. It's just being executed. But the government here is put on trial. Like they're pointing out what you did is wrong. You're guilty of doing this, right? So it's some of the same. It gave me a very similar vibe. And those two movies look very good. Like I honestly, if I get a chance to, I think I will go and see them. But so I saw those movies, and then I saw Anatomy of a Fall, and I was like, they're all about the same thing. And I thought, is this a coincidence? Is this because like they saw how popular Anatomy of a Fall was last year, so now they made movies about trials also? But I check out the days for like, it's been shot at the same time as Anatomy of a Fall, or like just right after. So like in the process for making a movie takes a while. It takes about 4 years in general. I'm almost a professional. I'm starting my own company. I would know, but I've studied performing arts. I know about cinema, and usually it takes about 4 years. Like the whole process of making a movie takes about 4 years. So they could not have, like, it's very unlikely that they would have written, casted, shot, directed, edited everything right after Anatomy of a Fall, right? So I thought, why is there so many movies about trial, and why are they working like that? Like, of course, that might be interesting, but like, if every movie is about that, why are they working? And so I thought, why do France especially loves trial movies? Because I have not seen such movies that much in America. Of course they are. I'm not aware of every movie ever made. Lately, the movies that were the most popular, the ones that got the most awards and attention, I don't think they were the ones talking about someone, something being put on a trial. So I was confused as to, does France has a particular relationship with trials that I don't know about? And turns out it does. And I made some research, and I'm here to give you the tea, because there is a lot of tea. I found it so interesting. I was like, I need to share this with you. So here it is. You're welcome. So I found a great article that I'm going to link in the description. It is in French, so if you don't speak French, you might have to translate and stuff, but it is in French. I translated it personally. I'm going to read some extracts of it, but I translated it personally, so there might be something that you don't understand, or it's not fully right. I use Google Translate a lot, so it is originally in French and I translated it in English, so it might not mean exactly the same things, but I try to make it as similar as possible. You understand anyway, so we'll see. But before we get into those articles, we have to talk about Georges Méliès. Now, do you know who Georges Méliès is? Well, if you love cinema, you probably should. Not me guilt-tripping you. No, but Georges Méliès is the pioneer of cinema, and not just French cinema. He basically invented cinema. The US have such a, they're like, oh, Edison invented cinema. Girly, he invented the camera. He did not invent cinema. And cinema is a French thing. I'm very possessive about it. We have different ways of teaching in the US and in France. Nobody agrees, but I think we're right, because I'm French and I know everything. No, but basically Georges Méliès is the pioneer. I wrote something. Georges Méliès is a French director and illusionist born in 1861. He's a pioneer of cinema, as he's the first director who used special effects in his movie. See, he's one of the first directors. Basically, he was inspired by the Lumière brothers, who did not create the camera, but they created cinema as an art. They made movies with a story and they show it to people. And so there's a great movie by Martin Scorsese, which is called Hugo Cabret, which talks about this. I have not seen the full movie, but I did go to a Georges Méliès exposition last year in Paris, and it was wonderful. There was an extra of that movie showing. And it's a great movie, it's very beautiful. It's Martin Scorsese, obviously.
Méliès was the first creator of the cinematic spectacle. He was the first to build a film studio to make films intended to be shown as a public spectacle. In 1897, he also invented all the tricks used since then without interruption in cinema, as well as the flashback.
Yeah, Georges Méliès is a pioneer in all sorts of cinema. He's one of the first directors and the first one to use special effects. He used to, you can find a lot of his movies online, even though a lot of them were lost or burned, but he was the first one to use special effects and to tell stories of monsters and aliens and stuff like this. And he's very important. There would be no science fiction movies without him. So you need to know that before we go into other things. Now, we're going to dive a little bit more into the trials. So something else that you need to know about French history. This is l'affaire Dreyfus, the Dreyfus case, I guess, in English. It's a very, very famous French case, and I'm going to sum it up a little bit for you. It is very important in the article, so I'm summing it up for you so that you understand the basics of it. So basically, l'affaire Dreyfus. In 1894, the Captain Dreyfus was accused of betraying his country by giving some documents to the enemies and stuff, and so he was condemned to prison for life. He was sent to French Guiana, which, by the way, my brother lives there, and he saw the house where he stayed, the prison where he stayed, he showed me. He was imprisoned there, far away from everyone for years. And as he was away doing prison things, the whole French country was turned upside down, because some people believed that he was guilty, and some people believed that he was not guilty. And this really turned into a national conflict. People were fighting, properly fighting. Even families were fighting. A lot of it had to do with anti-Semitism, because he was Jewish, and people thought that's why he was condemned, because he was Jewish, and there was very little proof against him. But he was Jewish, so let's send him to prison, I guess, right? So a lot of people did not agree with that. People said, oh, but you send him to prison just because he's Jewish, and it turned into a whole thing. So much that the French writer Émile Zola wrote a letter to the president called J'accuse. He published it in a newspaper called L'Aurore, and now this letter has become is the most famous thing. You even have an expression in English, say j'accuse. If you have ever used the expression j'accuse, you are referring to this, and you might not even know about it. People, celebrities, politicians took part. So two sides started to form there: Dreyfusards and the anti-Dreyfusards, so the ones that were for Dreyfus and the ones that were against Dreyfus. So Émile Zola was with Dreyfus. He thought that he was innocent. Basically, that's the whole thing of it. It became a huge thing, and we're going to dive deeper about it in the article. Méliès was here around that time because this happened in 1894, and cinema, the first show by the Lumière brothers, happened in 1895. So it was around this time. The trial was also happening around this time. That's when Georges Méliès starts to interest us even more than he already does, because he's always interesting.
The day after the publication of Zola's J'accuse in Clemenceau's newspaper L'Aurore, he decided to make a film on the Dreyfus affair. In this film, he recounts past events from 1894, and in 1899 he attended the second trial, which took place in Rennes almost every day. He made sketches, took notes, and then returned to shoot the scenes of his film in his studio in Montreuil-sous-Bois. He himself plays the role of Maître Laborie, one of Dreyfus' two lawyers, thus affirming his convictions. He then very clearly commits himself to the Dreyfusard camp. This courageous attitude means that he does not hesitate to fall out with part of his family. The views he offers in his film are astonishingly realistic. The actor who plays the role of Dreyfus, a hardware merchant from his neighborhood, bears a striking resemblance to the accused. This series of films by Georges Méliès, presented at fairs and cinemas, met with considerable success, but the spectators fought among themselves, Dreyfusard against anti-Dreyfusard. From then on, certain prefectures preferred to prohibit the projections of these clearly Dreyfusard views. Méliès' film from 1899 is the first political film in the history of cinema, the first censored political film, the first docufiction based on a legal case.
So Méliès was the first director to document a trial. So as you saw, he was so interested in this case that he started to write down. He was going there every day, took notes, made sure to replicate everything possible so that he could make it into a movie, basically like a documentary recreation that he could then show to people. So Méliès was really the first one to do it. Again, a pioneer. What can I say? The French people were just pioneers in cinema. But the thing is, it started to get really boring for the people because people, you know, they want to see the real thing. They want to see the crude things. They want to see reality, even like, especially if it's bad. So they were getting bored of Méliès just recreating the trial. They wanted to see the actual footage. They wanted to be actual footage. They wanted to see the trial, but they couldn't, obviously. Before we dive in, just to let you know that Pathé and Gaumont are both production companies. So if I'm going to mention them, if you don't know, Pathé and Gaumont are production companies.
It seems that for some time, the cinema audience has grown tired of Méliès, nicknamed the Illusionist, and of Gaumont, the moralist. They have grown tired of the usual news scene in documentaries, reconstructed newsreel and acted scenes. They are more and more interested in Pathé, which, to the greatest thrills of the viewer, reveals sex and crime. The Pathé Actualité operators plan to film the capital executions in real life, which greatly alarmed the local authorities. This is how film newsreel led to the censorship of French cinema in 1909.
So yeah, people got bored because they wanted to see, you know, the sensational. They wanted to see the real pain. They wanted to like record people being executed and stuff. Like, you know, people are weird. They want to see like the crimes and the blood and everything. Like, that's how, well, it led to censorship in France because, well, obviously it's weird to record people being decapitated. Like, I would not cross my mind personally. But this leads us to my third point, which is the duty of memory.
The second half of the 20th century was marked in France by acts of collective violence, which led to a substantial modification and globalization of law and justice. This resulted in cold trials for crimes against humanity that the legislator wanted to perpetuate so that no one could forget what had happened. The duty to remember is now part of judicial logic because even if the facts occur more than 50 years ago, the time spent, far from obscuring the truth, allows it to be explained after the fact, which leads to a double expectation. An expectation of truth, and an expectation of punishment for criminals. Crimes against humanity, having been declared imprescriptible by the law of December 26, 1964, the trials of Barbie, Touvier, and Papon took place in the 1980s and 1990s.
So basically, Barbie, Touvier, Papon are criminals. They were condemned for crimes against humanity, for Nazi stuff. Like, I don't want to get into this. They were the first one trialed in France for crimes against humanity. And basically, people were saying, well, you know, it makes sense that we record those trials because they are historical trials, right? They are, I believe, the only 3 ones for crimes against humanity in France. and like historical, and these people, I mean, crimes against humanity, not everyone does that. It's a rare occurrence, hopefully. They felt like they had to record this for posterity.
The first of these trials, that of Klaus Barbie in 1987, was an opportunity for the National Assembly to reflect on the advisability of authorizing the camera in trials of such scale. From 1945 to 1954, it seemed logical to involve the population in the sentencing of major war criminals. It was also during the Nuremberg trials that films were used for the first time as evidence for the prosecution. Two important innovations result from this. On November 29, 1945, a montage film produced by the Americans from images shot during the liberation of the camps was presented before the military tribunal. The first step was to raise awareness among the various protagonists of the trial. The trial of Klaus Barbie is a trial for crimes against humanity brought against Klaus Barbie, which took place before the Rhône sitting court between May 11th and July 3rd, 1987. It will result in a sentence of criminal imprisonment at life sentence for Klaus Barbie. This is the first trial held in France for crimes against humanity. It will have great media importance. 113 associations and individuals filed a civil suit. 900 journalists followed the trial, which was filmed in its entirety. The result was 145 hours of debate.
So that people could see what they've done and how wrong it was and how hurt people were. And hurt is not even the right word. I mean, Nazi stuff, people were not just hurt, people died, like thousands and thousands, millions, maybe people died, right? So they thought, like, we have to take this for prosperity. We have to record this for prosperity because people need to remember that. It needs to never happen again. Which is, I can understand that feeling. And I understand why they wanted to record those 3 trials. Again, it was the same thing for the Nuremberg trials, which were, again, trials for people who did some Nazi stuff. It's important that we know that those things happened and that we know that, like, if you do that, like, that's a crime against humanity. And those are not light words. Like, a crime against humanity as a whole. Like, this is big. It needs to stay on our mind. It needs to be showed to people. It needs to be taught in school that this is not right. I'm using light words, right? Because this is a YouTube video. This is not, like, a history class, but you know what I mean. Like, it's important that we remember those things, though, the duty of memory. In school in France, we are taught about this, le devoir de mémoire, the duty of memory. We need to remember. It's our duty to remember what happened before and how inhuman everything has been. And of course, film is a way for us to keep that not alive forever, but just like a picture freezes something in time, a movie doesn't freeze something in time, but it keeps it alive for a moment, and we're able to watch it and watch it again so that we can understand better. It can be a conclusion to people because everyone wanted to see those trials, but not everyone could get in the courtroom. And it was a way for people to also have their conclusion. It was a very important moment in French cinema. Now, is this cinema? I don't know, because cinema, when it has a story, it's more like documentary, but this documentary cinema, like, it's a whole thing. It's a whole other video. Now, my final thoughts. I love learning about this because I didn't know any of this, and I went to college learning about cinema, and I didn't really know about any of this. And I think this is fascinating. I also linked all of this to, like, the French Revolution, which is, like, ironic given my name on this channel. French people, they love revolution, right? We love revolution, we love we love overtaking government, we love revolt, right? I was wondering, like, is this a thing since, like, the French Revolution, where the whole monarchy, the whole system was put on trial? And is this a thing since then that we love to do, like, just put everyone on trial all the time? Is this a French thing or is this a non-French thing? Thinking about the, like, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial that happened, was it last year or the year before? Good God, it was 2 years ago? Oh my God, I'm so old. It was happening in the US, and the trial was, like, everyone was watching it, everyone was talking about it, it was huge. And there are lots of, like, famous trials, the O.J. Simpson trials, like, everything. People are fascinated by it, and they want to see things, and I don't know if it's really curiosity as much as it is voyeurism. I don't know if you say it like that in English. People just want to see, like, the real thing. They want to see the pictures, they want to see the videos, they want to dissect people's private life, and it's almost like obscene need. Like, it's very weird, but it's a very human feeling. And so I thought, is this French or is this international? I think it's international. All the French movies I see have somewhat of an element of trial in them, and so I think maybe it's a French thing, kinda, but not really. I don't really know. So that's what this video is about, really. So if you have any opinion about that, please let me know, because girlie, I'm confused. I'm confused in French. and in English. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. You can leave a like, comment, and subscribe. On this channel, we talk about movies and TV shows. I have another channel called Garance French, where it's like vlogs, life updates, and a little bit of it is in French. So if you're interested in that, you can check it out. And well, I'll see you in another video. Bye!